Evening, everyone. Welcome to the Jack and Joe show, and it's live. And Jack has recovered from his trip to Birmingham and his terrible Amstels that I'm sure he didn't get this time. And we're ready to talk all about it. How you doing, Jack?
Yeah, the pint of water is no, I'm fine. Honestly, it was a fantastic away day, and I'm sure everyone who was also up there really had a good time. How did you watch the game? Because obviously, was it on the red button?
It was on the red button was actually working for once, which is lovely. I remember having a few issues with it last time we were in the Championship, sort of just loading for the entire game and then never really working. But it worked last night. It didn't work for me the night before with the joys of West Brom versus Derby, but not too bothered to miss a 0-0. No. But Jack, that trip yesterday must have more than made up for the trip to Blackpool on Saturday, and it's looking more and more like that was a blip. Would you agree?
No, completely. Honestly, I was worried going into this game, like we talked about on Monday, just about the way Birmingham have been playing. And I was genuinely at the pub with a few of Jack Stroudley's new university mates and him and a couple, one of my brothers and just a few people. We were talking, and I said this could go one of two ways or one of three ways. We're going to get beaten tonight. We're going to draw 1-1, or it's going to be a repeat of Reading away, and as in Reading away when we won 4-1, and that was what it was. It was genuinely exactly the same thing. We went 4 up, and they got a consolation. It was great. It was fantastic. And yeah, we both watched the game back today, so we can add added context to what we saw. What wasn't great was the refereeing decisions. We'll come on to that. Because there was when you watch the game, you think, oh, things are happening. But actually, when you watch it back, I was going like, there should have been a sending off. There should have been a penalty. There should have been red cards. Honestly, it was mental. It was a bit of a mental game, to be fair. Right. Let's get into it, Joe. Let's start with the first goal. Have you watched Derby at home in the playoffs? I'm sure you have. Dennis Adoy,
I certainly have.
Doing the exact same. And what was good about this was that Dennis Adoy was really, really getting on my nerves on Saturday. So for him to pop up with a goal was fantastic. Joe, what did you think of the first goal?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously Harry Wilson missed the one-on-one just before that. And Harry Wilson had a great game, by the way. But one thing now is we seem very dangerous from corners. That's our third goal of the season so far from a corner. There was obviously the one against Huddersfield where Onuma sort of bundled it in. There was the one against Hull, which was a very similar routine to this one. Someone blocks off the marker. I think it was Tosin the other day. It was Chalabar yesterday. Is it a foul? I'm not so sure. I watched it back. I've got to say, when I watched it yesterday, I had no problems with the goal. Maybe watching it back today, after I've seen some Birmingham fans moaning, I think, would it have stood in the Premier League? I don't care. So great goal, great routine. And on either side of the pitch now, it seems like we've got a corner taker that's actually half decent. We've got Seri that can in-swing them from one side. Wilson, as you saw yesterday, from the other hand side, sorry. And for once, it looks like the coaching on the training ground in terms of set pieces is paying off, and it's great to see.
Yes, it was a good goal. One that I didn't see coming at all, especially from a corner. Obviously, we've done
especially against Birmingham as well, who are a big team. I wasn't expecting to score from a set piece against them.
So Chalobah basically holds off his man, but he doesn't really do anything wrong. He basically sort of gets in the way without getting in the way, which allows the space for Dennis Adoy, which is a fantastic leap, by the way. He's a brilliant header of the ball. Sammy, the Briar Rose was fantastic. Not only drinking there, but staying there last night as well. Was a great stay, and I would thoroughly recommend it for when we play them in the FA Cup this season at some point, I'm sure. Yes. So, yes, remember that Tosin opportunity when we scored against Hull? Yeah, I think the Chalobah one was less than a foul. Before we start and really get into things, there was a very worrying situation happening in the Birmingham end. From what I heard or saw reported was that a fan suffered a heart attack in the first 10 minutes of the game. And I was getting confused because there were so many stewards and what obviously was now medics over in that end. And I was thinking, I think it's people just trying to find their seats because the stands closed and stuff like that. When actually, of course, it was a much serious situation. So before we really get into anything, we're going to wish that fan and all his family the best. And you hate to see that we saw a very similar situation happen just before lockdown against Preston, and thankfully the fan in question came through and pulled through, and we're hoping for the exact same here, Joe.
Yeah, I think you remember I saw you that day. I hated that, and it's very horrible and very worrying to see it happen. On the coverage, I didn't know anything about it, so I was just hearing from you guys at the ground. But when it tends to happen in a stadium, the football club will normally let fans know an update in a few days' time, like Fulham did with that Preston game, as you say. So fingers crossed that fan makes a full recovery.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, it was just very, very obviously very worrying, and hopefully he pulls through and can get back on his feet soon. Right, so we go 1-0 up, and Birmingham had a lot of chances. In fact, they had a lot of the ball. They had 50% of the ball. And what I was concerned about last night was the fact that we weren't stamping our authority on the ball like we usually do when we're in these sort of situations, when we're sort of in the lead. It's not the worst thing to ever happen. I think that Birmingham, when they had the ball, they did quite a lot with it, but we dealt with it very well, and that's all thanks to Tosin and Gazzaniga having a fantastic game as well. We'll get onto that as well. What stood out for you defensively for Fulham last night, and what did you think of Birmingham's threat after we went 1-0 up?
Well, I think defensively we were winning everything in the air, especially in the first half. I thought we struggled slightly more towards the end of the game, especially when Deeney came on. But I was very impressed with how we coped against a very physical team. Similar to the performance at Millwall, I feel like yesterday's scoreline was probably more reflective of the Millwall game than it was of the Birmingham game, but dealt with them very well. Gazzaniga, shot-stopping wise, had a brilliant game and deserved the clean sheet, stayed down the middle for the penalty. Deeney normally puts it there, very unlucky. And yeah, but we were the more clinical side on the day. Birmingham, I think that's spot on. Birmingham wasteful, Fulham clinical, and that's what we found a lot of the time last season in the Premier League. But we were the wasteful ones, so it shows the slight gap in quality. I do agree with that comment that's just come up now about Gazza, about the distribution, and especially watching it back today, I still felt nervous whenever he was on the ball, which is obviously not a good sign. But shot-stopping wise, he had his best game, and Birmingham, I think, targeted him with all the crosses they put into the box. I know it's their style anyway, to be physical and to get it in there. We know Bowyer likes to play like that. We saw that with Charlton a few years ago, very physical team. You almost thought this is a game where Gazzaniga might struggle. He's not the most commanding of his area. I don't think we've seen that so far. But what impressed me yesterday was how we soaked up the pressure and then broke. And we broke at pace and we broke effectively. And it reminded me of the Stoke game, which I think up until now was probably our best performance for the season so far, maybe other than Millwall. And it shows that if teams come on to us, I mean, there's games like Blackpool where it's going to go their way and they might nick it, and maybe undeservedly so. But, if teams come at us on our day, we can rip them to shreds going forward. And we did that again.
Yeah, I don't even think we were at our best last night. I thought we were good and we were clinical, but on another day you might miss 2 or 3 of those chances. You might miss the penalty, and it could have been a very, very different story. There was also a moment in the game where Chong, I think it was at 0-0. Chong had the ball and he was going towards the box, and Jutkiewicz was free at the back post, and all he's got to do is click that back post, and Jutkiewicz will get on the end of it, whether he scores or not doesn't matter. Yeah. But he went for the shot and Adoy blocked it. And I think it led to maybe that Harry Wilson chance, which then, of course, subsequently we scored from the corner. But just little things like that, like good defending from Adoy, but even so, Jutkiewicz was
wrong decision from Birmingham.
Exactly. Yeah. And that summed up the game. Birmingham made all the wrong decisions or just couldn't finish their chances. If you watch the extended highlights, which I haven't, I'm not sure whether this was on it, but Harry Wilson goes through and Ryan Woods takes him out, no foul, nothing, on the edge of the box. It would have been surely a last man opportunity. So I would have thought a free kick and maybe possibly a red card, but the referee gave nothing, and it was definitely a foul. Joe, did you see this?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, watching it back today, I was even more sort of incensed because I was like, you know, this game was, I think it was 1-0 at that stage. The game's in the balance. This is a huge moment, and the referee doesn't even give a foul. It boggles my mind.
Or even Lino.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then obviously we get onto the penalty incident, and it was a penalty. Chalobah was fouled. But I'm still annoyed because the player didn't even get booked, and he made no attempt to get the ball, which is technically actually a red card offence, because if you make no attempt to play the ball and you're the last man, it's a red card. So I'm shocked that the referee didn't book him. Good to see Mitrovic has remembered how to score a penalty, which is always good. And full credit for him for stepping up again, even though his confidence might have been slightly dented by the one against Stoke. But as you say, Jack, awful refereeing performance. Not too dissimilar from the one I watched on Tuesday evening. Keith Stroud my old friend Keith Stroud for Bournemouth versus QPR with an absolute clanger, 0 out of 10 performance, just terrible for both sides. And that is one that get us out of this league with this refereeing. Like the refereeing displays are terrible.
Keith Stroud, I have to say, is the worst. He's the championship Mike Dean. He always wants to be the centre of attention. Yeah. He was the one who blew a kiss to the ball when he picked it up on the coming out the Middlesbrough tunnel against Middlesbrough. Very odd, but also very Keith Stroud. He always wants to be the limelight when really the referees are just there to make the right decisions and to let the game flow, which ironically was not what should have happened yesterday. There should have been way more cards and way more fouls.
I think you notice a good referee when you don't notice them.
Right, yeah,
and you think after the game and you think, I don't even remember anything that happened today in terms of the ref. That's a good referee.
And then there was an incident in the second half. I know we're jumping, but we're just talking about the refereeing here, where it seemed as though, I didn't see this at the time, Harley Dean had maybe stamped or at least trodden on Harry Wilson just before Harry Wilson came off, or I think maybe 10 minutes ago, whatever. And the fourth official was right there and can see it. Ref didn't see it. Liner didn't see it. It's just things like this, very small margins and fine margins, but they do make a difference. And referees have got to be on top of the game because he did lose control of that game. You know, there was a number of times where I don't think the ref knew what he was doing. But anyway, we 2-0 up, Mitrovic penalty right before the end of the first half. Fantastic. We then have the halftime pie, which is the chicken balti. Not as good as Blackpool because obviously it's a pucker pie. So it comes in the packaging. You kind of know what you're getting. But the thing about Blackpool pie was it was no packaging. It was not boiling. It doesn't burn your tongue as soon as you eat it. And it was just sensational. But we're not going to waste any more time on that because
we'd rather have the crap pie and the good result.
Yeah.
I think
I'd take it any day. Yeah. Take it any day. And then what happened? So it was half time, and then second half starts, and Harry Wilson almost scores. There's a ball over the top, and then he does a little 1-2, and his shot is saved by the keeper. And then, of course, we do score the third, and this is a fantastic ball from Chalobah. Everyone could see it. Everyone's like, play that, and he plays it perfectly. And Harry Wilson, as cool as you like, because obviously he missed that chance against Stoke where he hit the post clean through. But this was what was fantastic about this game. Targeting and playing in Wilson over those three centre-backs and over the wing-backs so he'd get that space to run into. And that's where we got our joy from. Harry Wilson was just the difference, and that's why we lost against Blackpool. We didn't have him. Didn't have Carvalho. And Joe, so talk to me about this finish from Harry Wilson. Cool, calm, collected 3-0 Fulham.
Yeah, so calm considering that he'd missed a couple of chances before that, including a one-on-one, for him to still be confident enough to almost feint where he was going and then put it in the near post instead was great. And I think his running, as you said, is what we missed against Blackpool. I mean, one killer ball in the first half from Seri found him through on goal because of his good movement. One killer ball from Chalobah yesterday. I mean, that whole move came from defending a Birmingham corner. And with about 3 passes later, we were 3-0 up. I mean, it's clinical, but it's fabulous movement off the ball to create the chance in the first place. And so far this season, I mean, Wilson looks too good for this division. His numbers so far, considering he's played 4 games, are quite frankly pretty ridiculous. 3 goals and 2 assists. and a red card. You know, he's been action-packed, box office entertainment, and I'm excited to see him in the flesh again on Saturday because he seems to be the key player in this team, in that when he's missing, as you say, we really miss that movement. Our other wingers are good, Cabano, Caballero, if they play there, they're good. But his movement is so much better than theirs to get into the right positions. And then his clinical nature, when he does get into them, is very good. I know he missed another one-on-one, but he's probably the player at the moment, other than Mitrovic, perhaps, where when he's through on goal, I back him to score.
We have a comment here from Elizabeth about the fourth goal, and we'll come on to it now. She says, absolutely obsessed with the fourth goal. Let me put it on screen. Absolutely obsessed with the fourth goal. The dispossession from Mitrovic to Seri and back felt straight off the training field and exactly what we're lacking last year. Absolutely. Mitrovic, hard work off the ball to win the ball back, plays it with Seri, and this is really nice from Seri because he finds that little gap in the box between the defenders, and Mitrovic finishes it off in the 84th minute. And Joe, I mean, 4-0 up away from home after a defeat against Blackpool. How important is that mentally for Fulham and for the fans? Because we came into this bit apprehensive. We were thinking, oh, Birmingham, they're on good form, and like we lost the last game. Deeney might start. It's fantastic. What a response. And it just puts all my confidence back into this team.
Yeah, it's a statement, isn't it? It's saying Saturday was a blip. You caught us when we weren't at our best, but when we're at our best, we can beat anyone and we can actually smash them, not just beat them. I mean, 4-0, I know maybe it wasn't the biggest reflection of the game in terms of dominance, but in terms of the clinical nature of our attacking, it certainly was, because we had the best attacking players on the pitch. And for once, well, not for once this season, other than the Blackpool game, other than the Middlesbrough game, we've really shown that. We've shown that our players are a class above. And it's what we didn't do last time in 2019-20 season. And as Elizabeth says, as you've just said, we also managed to bring the off-the-ball play from Mitrovic so far this season, which is huge because last season in the Premier League, and I know it's a higher calibre of opposition, if Mitrovic wasn't scoring, I feel as if he wasn't doing anything. And maybe it was the system, maybe it was the coaching, maybe it was his attitude. I mean, I know that he didn't get on with Parker from reports, but this is exactly it. It seems that Mitrovic just didn't want to play for Parker. Parker didn't want to play him, and now he's working under a manager that he loves, and he's willing. He's played every single minute of Championship football this season. He played 90 minutes on, well, probably 96 minutes or whatever it was on Saturday, and 3-0 up away from home in the 84th minute. He's closing down the centre backs, winning the ball back, and scoring a goal. It's an unbelievable improvement in work ethic.
Happy birthday, Mitrovic, by the way. It's his birthday today. And what a way to give us a present, and then obviously to have your birthday obviously today. And okay, they score a penalty, whatever. Deeney scores, doesn't really do much. And then they hit the bar and force a couple more saves from Gazzaniga. And then full-time whistle goes, and John Mikel Seri comes over and starts tapping the badge again, and I'm getting giddy. I'm thinking, what is actually going on? I tweeted in the summer, can't wait to see John Mikel Seri dictate the play in the Sky Bet Championship on a chilly afternoon at Oakwell. Obviously, it's not in March. Obviously, it's not March at the moment. But for all those comments who were like, "You're deluded. That won't happen." I'm gonna give you a nice quote tweet in the next few weeks, and we'll see what the reaction is there. But that's made me giggle a lot. Let's talk about individual performances then. Let's start with Paulo Gazzaniga because he made a couple of very, very good saves, but distribution pretty poor a few times. And anyone else who stood out for you?
I thought it was a great team performance overall, and the polar opposite to Blackpool when I thought that everyone was poor. Gazzaniga, I thought it was his best game for us, and that's despite some shaky distribution again. Other parts of his game were great. For example, the long ball to Wilson to create the chance where he got fouled and it should have been possibly a red card, as we were saying before. That was great distribution. It's more the short passing that troubles me. Chalobah, I thought he had a bit of a slow start to the game, but it ended up being a pretty complete debut. I mean, I wasn't expecting him to be so good going forward. I thought he'd be a good signing, but I was expecting most of his work to be defensive. Tosin or Toshin, as someone's pointed out, was brilliant. Deserved a clean sheet, as did Gazzaniga. Just brilliant performance. But I was so impressed by the combination of Wilson and Mitrovic last night. I thought both were just top of their game. And they play like that every week. I think we score at least 2 or 3 most weeks, and so exciting to see. But there wasn't one player out there that I thought put in a poor performance. My only thing would have been, I'd have quite liked to see Muniz come on again.
Yes.
I was a bit disappointed not to when the game was wrapped up. I thought it was a good chance, but I suppose, you know, Leeds at home in the Cup next week, we'll probably see him then.
Yeah, I saw someone comment that down, and I'm actually getting very excited by the prospect of Muniz starting his first game, which will probably be against Leeds, because Mitrovic will probably need a rest. And look, it's a Carabao Cup game. We're top of the league, which is fantastic. We're back to the top. And if someone told me on Saturday evening, don't worry, you'll be top of the league Wednesday night, I'll be like, great. I'm looking forward to it then. Yeah, we could talk about Keena as well. Came on, wasn't great, but I think he just needs some time to get into this team. I think he's got a chance now with Carvalho being injured. It was interesting to see, of course, the midfield and how we lined up in the midfield, Joe. Yeah,
really interesting. And Peter Rutzler wrote an article on it in The Athletic today, and Silva was basically saying that by playing like 1-6, like deep lying player in Seri, and then Chalobah and Reed either side, maybe a slightly more box-to-box 8s, which is interesting. Reed hasn't really played like that until recently.
He's got the stamina to do it.
He certainly does, yeah, roadrunner. But it was an interesting idea, because what it allowed us to do is basically play Wilson so much higher. Reed as well on the other side, Bobby D called over Reed, that is, of course. And it's far more a front 3 that are literally level with each other. Mitrovic has the support there. And just the balance that we had in midfield, I really liked. So I'd be very surprised if we changed it, if there weren't any injuries going into the Reading game. Doesn't sound like Carvalho will be back, sadly. But as you say, Keena, this is his chance. And I feel a bit sorry for him, because I think he was trying a bit too hard, perhaps, on his debut and got dropped. I don't know if him getting dropped was purely performance-based. I think it was partly the change in system with who we had available and how to cope with Birmingham's threat. But it worked really nicely. And Brian coming back into the team last night, I thought was a good call as well. And a few people commenting here, the question, Brian or Robinson versus Reading. Well, I wouldn't drop Brian based on that game. I don't think he deserves to be dropped. So for now, I'd stick with him. What about you?
Yeah, this is interesting. I'm sure we'll probably get onto the whole team in full at the end of the stream. But in terms of, I was talking to someone about this on the way home, actually. Brian or Robinson. Robinson, of course, has played a lot of football, not only with Fulham, but with the USA. And I think starting him on Saturday was a big mistake. I think starting him and Ream were both a big mistake. And look, we'll learn from that, and that's something to learn from, obviously. And Brian coming in and doing really well, there's no need to drop him now. Yes, he adds a threat with his pace as Robinson, but Brian has got a wonderful left foot. And he didn't really put a foot wrong last night. So I think, well, he's made his 100th appearance now for Fulham. I think that that Brian should and probably will start, actually. Another point about Ivan Cavallero coming on, maybe stretch that defence a little bit more of his pace and try and get him behind. He, of course, then got an opportunity and blasted it into the fountains. I'm sure that hit someone in the head. Not a great effort, but look, he's got a good pace and he can stretch defences. Of course, we don't have the likes of Abu Kamara anymore, so it's going to have to be Cav with that pace to come off the bench to really tire the defence out. Let's talk Nottingham Forest just for a bit, just for a tiny bit, because it's the first managerial casualty of the season, and we usually cover the Championship on a wider, so it was coming. I mean, it was definitely. I mean, after Cardiff, I was like, he's got to go after the Sunday's game, and it seems as though they were already getting in a replacement. It looks like Steve Cooper, says John Percy, of course, from the Telegraph. It's just been a bit of a nightmare. We won't spend too much time on this, but I just want to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's lasted this long, as you say. The Cardiff game, I mean, I think that he could have been even gone before that. And so it seems as if they've been waiting until they've got a replacement lined up. Seems they've got it now. But last night, I mean, I watched the highlights of that game. They look like a team devoid of confidence. Chris Hughton's actually a manager that I've quite liked previously. I'd even called for him at Fulham at one stage, but he seems to me to always have been quite a solid manager. Maybe not the most inspiring football, but that's a great stat, by the way. That is unbelievable. What a turnover of managers that is. Sometimes you got to stick with them, but this definitely wasn't the case. They weren't playing for him. Ethan Horvath in goal, who we were linked with on a free transfer, dropping a clanger for the second goal as well. Absolute nightmare. It's weird to see, and I'm glad that, because let's face it, Hughton wasn't going to make it until we play them in about a month's time. So I'm glad that it looks like they're getting a new manager now. So hopefully, if they do get a new manager bounce, it runs out before we play them. So I'm always a bit nervy about that when teams sack their managers.
Not only that, we've got to play Forest away soon. Of course, the manager bounce could be a huge thing. But Bristol City's
I don't even want to talk about this one.
Bristol City's home form. They haven't lost. They haven't won at home since January. And our next away game is Bristol City, which is next Saturday, a week on Saturday. Let me know if you're all going up there, or was it down, or I don't know, sideways, sort of west, isn't it? But yeah, that'll be a good laugh. I advise you to get an Uber from the station. Don't do the 2-mile walk. It's not worth it, unless you want to get some exercise, which is always fine. Keena, good point. Keena could start against Leeds, and that could be his big opportunity. Couple more points. No Josh Onumar, and of course Harrison Reed did go off injured as well, Joe.
Yeah, it's one of those where if Harrison Reed has got a knock, then I wouldn't risk him against Reading, because I don't think it's worth it when we've got other options that could do a job fine. I mean, obviously Harrison Reed, if he's fit, I want him in our team, but he's just come back from injury. He looked to be struggling a little bit. I'm sure he would have been taken off anyway, but I wouldn't risk him. So Onumar sounded like a small injury. He's been great so far this season. And I'd imagine he would come straight back in. Although Keena, as you say, is the more attacking option, you would think. Although Onumar could play as the 10. Wouldn't surprise me if we saw either of them. But either way, I would really like to see the same team, if possible, against Reading, because I think that the control we had in the midfield after the initial sort of toing and froing of the game was very good. And I was very impressed by the attacking qualities of Chalobah, which actually quite surprised me.
It's actually amazing how we didn't have a recognised number 10 in our lineup. And we've got like Josh Onumar, who's out, Carvalho's out, Keane was on the bench, and Kearney, who's still out. Yet we still managed to find a system that worked and score 4 goals and look creative, like in midfield, defensively, and of course attackingly as well, going forward. Fantastic. Someone makes a good point here. Andre Frank, Zambo and Guisa up against Adamola Lookman tonight in the Europa League. That starts in a few minutes' time. Might catch the end of that.
And Guisa's wearing the number 99 shirt as well, which is a bit rogue.
He's done a Rodrigo Muniz request.
Yes. Oh, God. They should have let him have 99.
Basically, the rule is in the EFL, no player can have a number over 50, which I find a bit boring. But
that's nice and fun and really not jobs worthy at all.
Yeah.
Like, what is the point of that?
Exactly, yeah.
I'm so offended. He's wearing number 78. Grow up.
Your Dar wouldn't like it, but
yeah.
I have a strange feeling we won't see Carvalho again. I hope I'm wrong. No, he's injured. He'll come back. He's still under contract until at least the end of the season. If he signs a new deal, fantastic. If he doesn't, I think he's missed a big opportunity, and I think it's a mistake because he's not going to slot into that Real Madrid team, is he? I mean, he might, but he won't. Joe, any more thoughts on what was a terrific away day at St Andrews?
Not for me, just really relieved to bounce back. I honestly couldn't have cared less about what the performance was going to be like last night. As it turns out, I was impressed, although we weren't at our best. The result was the most important thing. 3 points, however it comes. So to do it with a 4-1 rout in the end is just amazing. And now we go and play Reading. And obviously on paper, it looks like the easiest of the 3 games we played this week. And that makes me a bit nervous. Because, we could always slip up. So it's worth noting that until just after the game that Reading played against QPR, the 3-3, they had the joint worst defensive record at the stage of game week 6 in the Championship in history. So no team has ever conceded more by that stage of the season. I know it's still quite early. So they're a team that we can definitely get at, and that's the most important thing. But John Swift is a man that is rolling back the years and making me slightly nervous. Top scorer, he's got 3 assists as well. Fabulous free kick midweek, and they'll be off the back of that important win against Peterborough. So I'm sure, like any game in the Championship, it would be tough, but we really need to back this up with another 3 points now.
A couple of comments here. Adamola is not starting for Leicester, so I'm not tuning in now. Actually, no, I am, because Anguissa is obviously playing, isn't he? Yes, nice to see Sol Bamba training with Middlesbrough after his cancer fight. Also great to see him doing some TV coverage as well for the EFL. Fantastic to see.
He's even been playing for them now, Sol Bamba. He's
really?
Public, yeah.
What a great comeback. And honestly, it's like, what was it, Jonas Gutierrez back in 2012 or 13 with Newcastle. A word on Reading. Conceded 17 this season, as have Peterborough, but they've also scored 13, so they do like a goal.
Yeah.
And of course, we've scored 17, and they've only scored 4 less than us. It's been a bit of a mad season for Reading so far. I'm just looking at some of their results. They beat Peterborough the other night. I'm still need to watch those highlights actually from Tuesday and Wednesday. Drew with QPR 3-0, lost 4-0 to Huddersfield, who are somehow 3 points behind us. We'll get onto that, I'm sure, when we wrap up. And yeah, they've just had a bit of a crazy season. Lost 3-2 to Bristol City, lost to Coventry, who are on an unbelievable run at the moment at home. They beat Cardiff last night. Was it by a 1-0, I think?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Reading will come here thinking that they might get a goal against us, but I think on our day with that defence, we could maybe, oh god, where's the wood to touch? We could score about 3 or 4, maybe. It could be a very interesting afternoon. Right, let's talk Reading and the team.
Yeah.
And then any more thoughts on what has been a fantastic Championship season so far, Joe, as we wrap up?
Yeah, I mean, for the team for Reading, as I said a bit earlier, I would play an unchanged team if possible. And the only caveats for that are, if Carvalho's back, I'd play him. And if Reed's injured, I wouldn't play him. So if Reed's injured, then depending on who's fit out of, in this order, Carvalho, if he's not Onoma, if he's not Keener, that's who I'd play instead. And yeah, I feel like why change a winning formula? Maybe a bit harsh on Robinson, who has had a really good season so far, Blackpool aside. But at the same time, I think Brian deserves his chance. So that's the team I play. And then Reading, they've got some very good attacking players. As you say, you don't score 13 by accident. That's quite a decent return at this stage of the season. You'd expect them to be higher with that return, but their defence has been so poor. Ajaria is a player I know you rate very highly as well as me. They've also got, obviously, who we've already talked about, John Swift, who's had a fabulous season. And I remember him causing us problems a few years back. He always tends to. I remember there were always comparisons between him and Tom Kearney. So nervous for the game, as I'm nervous for every game, but excited as well. And I really do feel we can cause them problems. And it's a chance to extend our lead, or at least keep our lead at the top of the table. I haven't been impressed with West Brom recently, who've drawn their last 2 at home against not the best opposition. I mean, I don't know how they didn't beat Derby. Unbelievable performance from Kel Roos in goal for the Rams. But it's all about staying top now. Can we extend the lead if possible? If not, just stay up there, because you know the squad depth that we've got is good enough to maintain this lead through the 3 game weeks like this, where we've got Saturday, Tuesday, well, in this case Wednesday, and then a Saturday game as well. We made 4 changes midweek, and what a strong team it was. We could do the same on Saturday, whereas Reading couldn't, if you look at their depth.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Reading's squad here. They've got Junior Hoylett, Lucas Zhao, George Puskás. These are good players going forward. John Swift, of course, Renan Mota, Yaku Mate has been out injured. They've got Alan Halovic, Ajaria. They've got some good players, but it's at the back of which Scott Dan, who of course we once were linked with many moons ago. They've got Liam Moore, who's been playing at the club for years now. Michael Morrison. So maybe that's an aging squad at the back, and then they've got a very good keeper in Raphael, who got like player of the season or something like a couple of years ago for Reading.
Although
So
it's a massive help that Raphael decided to punch the whiteboard after conceding a goal to QPR and is now out of the game. I don't know why he's done that, but fair play.
That is interesting. If there was an all or nothing Reading documentary, which I'm sure no one will watch, that would be quite interesting to see what would happen behind the scenes. Well, let's get the score prediction. So basically, what you're saying is you'd play the same team as last night if no Reed,
if possible, yeah.
And I think I'd probably be happy with that as well. Also, is it worth noting that Roma have been linked with Kenny Tete today?
I suppose it is worth mentioning for a January move. I mean, I almost think just lie to them and say he's not going to be fit by then. Just say he's still out, mate. But you can have a doy if you want. I mean, after his goal yesterday, that'll boost the value a bit. Cyrus Christie, he was linked to a move to Italy. What year was it? Can't remember who he's linked to now, but on deadline day he's linked to someone. Bologna, possibly.
Yeah, maybe one of those.
I don't know. But yeah, I mean, score prediction. I think I'll go for 3-1 Fulham, and the reason I'm going for 1 is because John Swift is just scoring every game, and he can create something out of nothing. I actually back us to keep a clean sheet against them, but I'm not going to count my chickens because he's a very good player and he's in the best form in the league at the moment. So I will go for a 3-1 win. I think Wilson still being fit and ready to play is the biggest team news that we could have for this weekend, because I think if he plays, we're, as you said earlier, Jack, a completely different team.
Yeah, I mean, just a word on our bench yesterday was absolutely unbelievable. Rodak, Mawson, Keena, Cabano, Muniz, Caviero, and I can't remember the other one, but just like a ridiculous bench with a level. And even then, I mean, we say it every week, the players who are not in the squad at the moment, who are injured, the Josh Onomar, Carvalho, Kearney, just like this is fantastic, and it's so exciting. I'm getting so excited about this team. I'm going to go for a 2-0 win. And Mitrovic is going to score a brace and overtake John Swift in the leaderboard because I'm that petty. I want it to happen. And look, if we can be top of the league by 5:45, 5:45 on it's 5:45, isn't it? Who cares? Saturday night. Then it'll be fantastic. West Brom go away to Preston, I think.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, it's going to be a very interesting weekend. Loads of football to come up. And we've got Leeds, we've got Bristol City, then we've got another midweek game in Swansea.
Yeah. Then
we go up to Coventry, then we've got an international break to take stock and play FIFA 22 for 2 weeks. Let's get everyone else's score predictions in here. 3-0, Mitrovic, Wilson, Brian.
I would love to see Brian get a goal, actually.
Oh, it would be fantastic.
I would love that. I'd love that.
John Mikel Seri last night as well.
Yeah,
another fantastic performance.
He's a class above this league, Jack. I can't believe that he's going around patting the badge in Birmingham on a Wednesday night. I was expecting him to be on like a sunny beach or something, playing for like, I don't know, back to like somewhere in France or somewhere.
The only badge I was expecting people to tap in Birmingham was their Stone Islands last night. 2-0 Chalobah and Tosin, 4-0 Chalobah and a Mitrovic hat-trick.
Tell you what, that Tosin one must be in the 88th minute, I reckon, Jack.
Yeah, Tosin, 88th minute. Fulham 3-0, Wilson, Brace and Mitrovic. Let's not underestimate Reading. They've scored a fair few goals this season. Wilson, Brace and Mitro at 3-1. Yeah, I'd love to see Tosin score. He must be due a goal. He's had his chances as well this season. He's taken a couple of pot shots and a couple of headers as well. Leicester just scored. That's 1-0 then against Napoli. And Gisa is fuming. Joe, let's round it off there. We've been going for about 40 minutes. Is there anything else you want to say? Any shout-outs?
No shout-outs this time. Just a great, fabulous reaction to the Blackpool result. It looks like it's just a blip, but we need to make sure we follow it up with another win. Once again, result first, performance second, and then we can hopefully leave all the showboating to later when hopefully we're a few points clear at the top.
Oh, I hope so. Anguissa own goal. No, it was apparently Ayoze Perez before I lose my mind. It's great to bump into gold medalist Thomas, of course, in the concourse. I had a nice conversation with him just before kickoff. What a great guy. And again, congratulations for what was an incredible achievement. And yeah, we're out. I don't know what I'm still doing here. Honestly, we should probably just wrap up. It's been a pleasure, Joe. Let's get this already, shall we? Thanks very much for watching. And Joe, we'll speak on Monday, I suppose.
Yeah, speak on Monday. Thanks, everyone, and enjoy the game on Saturday.
Yep. If you're down at the cottage, come and say hi. If you're in the Golden Line before, come and say hello. And come on, Fulham.